Speaking of WrestleMania, there was a WrestleMania moment that I really want to address before we get into the news and notes and then the emails here on Not Sam Wrestling. Game Changer Wrestling, GCW, did their homecoming shows over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday on Fight Plus. They did GCW Homecoming from Atlantic City. And one of the featured matches, the opener for night one, featured mixed tag action. Steph Delander and Matt Cardona, who have been here on Not Sam Wrestling before, taking on Maki Ito, and Nick Gage. Nick Gage, who has also been here on Not Sam Wrestling before. And it was, this one was a death match. There were buckets of blood all over the ring. But this time they weren't buckets that were poured onto anybody. They were buckets that were drenched from the four participants in the match, specifically Matt Cardona and Steph Delander. I'm talking light tubes, pizza cutters, thumbtacks, buckets of blood, and ultimately, all anybody was talking about in this match was Ecto 1. Matt Cardona and Steph Delander came in as the Deathmatch Busters. They had their own song produced for it. Who are you going to call? Deathmatch Busters. A parody of the Ghostbusters song. And at this warehouse in Atlantic City, they drove a legit Ecto 1 into the warehouse. Okay, this is GCW. It looked like a GCW show. But for this entrance, WrestleMania rained down on Game Changer Wrestling. And Matt Cardona and Steph Delander stepped out of that Ecto 1 in full, like, Ghostbusters coveralls with the sleeves cut off and Deathmatch Busters logos stamped on the back. And they did their entrance, and then they got on the mic, and they said they didn't want to have a death match. They wanted a sports entertainment match. Get those light tubes out of the ring. I mean, the whole thing was so brilliant. And it was a great card, right? Not only was there blood and knives and thumbtacks and everything you could imagine in this opening tag match, but throughout the card, there was carnage, but also great wrestling and also high flying and everything you could come to expect. But ultimately, what went everywhere was Matt Cardona and Steph Delander driving into a warehouse in Atlantic City in an Ecto 1 automobile, in an indie show, with an original song, with original gear on. I mean, putting so much money into that presentation. But it was worth it. Because when you look at that, you go, this is wrestling, right? You hear that chant that echoes through arenas when fast-paced matches are happening or hard-hitting matches are happening. This is wrestling. This is wrestling. Well, that's the chant that should be going through during the entrance, before a bell rings, before SDL and Cardona even get in the ring. This is wrestling. That's pro wrestling. It's making the world talk. It's giving people a reason to be interested. People look at that, the entrance, a car pulling in. And I saw the tweets. Why aren't I watching more GCW? Cody Rhodes quote tweeted my tweet showing the entrance and said, man, he's good. Talking about Broski. That's what wrestling is, dude. That level of showmanship, that level of care. I was talking about it earlier. You want to say, what do we do to push things to the next level? What do we do to make this place better for everyone? We don't get petty. We don't have to do dirt sheet weirdness. We go so far above and beyond what's asked or expected that it makes the whole world take notice. You had no choice but to take notice and enjoy what was happening when that entrance happened. and the level of commitment that Broski and SDL had to that entrance. I mean, it was so very special and so good for wrestling. It's exactly, that is wrestling. That's it. That's it. That's where you grab your buddy from the next room that doesn't watch and go, you got to see this. And then you show them the death match after to contextualize how great the entrance was. That ultimately, to me, that whole match where those four people are busting ass and putting it all on the line for us, to me, really just acts to contextualize how great that entrance was in this arena. This is what people are paying to see. A deathmatch war. And you drove an Ecto 1 into a warehouse for it? Like, it's when you, like, think about it on a character level, it's, like, delusional. That this Matt Cardona character is so obsessed with being a wrestling superstar that he has no clue where he is. It goes deep, man. It goes deep. But in reality, they're bringing a level of storytelling to the indies, the likes of which we very rarely see. Such a beautiful thing, and it's something that I deeply appreciate in terms of paying it forward and doing things that make wrestling better. And I know that sounds silly. Driving an Ecto 1 into a GCW show, that makes wrestling better? Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because it brings pro wrestling. Here's why it makes wrestling better. Because it brings showmanship, storytelling, and traditional pro wrestling into this deathmatch world that has been so shunned by so many. Oh, that deathmatch stuff. Ooh, no. That's that backyard garbage wrestling. Well, what if we brought WrestleMania to the backyard and brought all those eyes over there and made everybody realize that it's all wrestling. It's all one thing. We're all doing the same thing. And not only that, but driving that car in acts to normalize what so many people, I believe, misunderstand in the deathmatch world. But also, that is what those performers are doing to put eyes on another product. There is nothing that Matt Cardona and Steph Delander could do more to get attention onto GCW and the independents as a whole. And as a performer, if you can use your platform to get as much attention onto where you are, not only is that good for you, because it's going to make you more valuable, but it's going to make that place more valuable. It's going to make that place more viable. So if that place is acting in a righteous way and in a way that's good for wrestling, it starts to create even more places where people can go to be full-time professional wrestlers and develop and become talented and create in new ways under this wonderful medium of wrestling. I am going so heady and artsy on this show today. I didn't know it was coming, but this is where we're at. I'm bearing my wrestling soul inside this wrestling bubble known as NotSam Wrestling today.